So Labour come to power and they do one policy and the policy just dogs them, and it's the winter fuel cut for pensioners. And there's a vote coming and obviously Labour are going to win it. But my goodness, it's trench warfare, Mike.
I think they've dug a huge hole for themselves here. Last night, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, addressed her backbenchers and said, look, it's all part of my economic strategy, my financial policy. But the rest of the world doesn't agree. I don't know if you saw Robert Peston's comment on it, did you? The ITV political commentator.
Yeah.
He said it's utter garbage. And, I mean, literally just said none of this adds up. And apparently where she's got herself now is because she said this is vital to my economic plan to bring growth to Britain, she can't now drop it. Because if she does drop it, she'll be accused of wrecking her own plan.
Well, she says there's a big black hole, doesn't she? That's the thing.
I am extremely disappointed by this policy because, you know, the Labour was elected after over 10 years of Conservative austerity. It was a clear rejection of that programme. We know from those over 10 years that cutting basic necessities does not lead to increased economic growth. And the idea that the way that Rachel Reeves is setting the tone for the next 5 years, the first thing she's done is to cut pensioners' winter fuel allowance. We're about to enter the winter. We know that hospitals...
She does say that they are getting under
deal with
OK, here's the
a lot
defence.
in the winter.
Under the triple lock, pensioners get more money from next year. That's what she says. And secondly, why not, if you're going to have a winter fuel allowance, why not give it to 25-year-olds? Because they've got no money.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah, but they've got their parents' house.
That's not
They've
what's
got their
actually...
parents' house.
I mean, we don't all have our parents' house.
No, but a lot of them do.
You can't afford... I mean, anyone under 30 can't afford to buy a house.
And, I mean, what I would say is... I mean, it's not like she's cutting it for pensioners and then giving a winter fuel allowance to young people. But what I don't understand is why wouldn't you start off with cutting taxes for the extremely wealthy or putting a windfall tax
raising taxes for the extremely wealthy.
Raising taxes for the very wealthy. Or if we're talking about, you know, the energy sector, putting a windfall tax on big oil and gas, because whilst our, you know, energy bills are going through the roof.
But
big oil and gas are making bigger profits than ever.
I'll show you the Guardian front page. There's two elements to this, because actually Rachel Reeves had to basically have what was probably quite a tense meeting with her backbenchers. There were a lot of backbenchers. One of the problems of having a massive majority, 170 majority, is that you can't control these people.
No.
You know, but you can't offer them jobs.
No,
you haven't got any jobs.
And a lot of them are first-timers. They've got no experience of how to handle a crisis in Parliament, so nobody knows what they're going to do. I just think it's a vindictive, nasty policy aimed at a group of people who never vote Tory. I think it's as simple as that.
Who never vote Tory?
I beg your pardon, who never vote Labour, who always vote Tory. That's why they singled them out.
Oh, is that what you think?
Of course I do, because do you remember when Theresa May smashed up her election campaign because she started talking about inheritance taxes for the elderly?
Well, she was trying to bring in a policy of 80 grand maximum will be your spend on old people's care.
Absolutely.
And it all they put it on the back of an envelope.
That's right.
And crashed the election.
That's right. But
as you say.
Another policy here might be to take away the single person allowance. You get 25% off, I think, don't you, if you're a single person. 1/3 of pensioners are single people. I don't know, why do Labour hate the elderly?
Well, listen, many of our viewers are pensioners, and I'm conscious when we talk about, I don't want to annoy them, but we keep being told 27% of pensioners are millionaires.
Yeah, but...
Well, look, there is a generational issue in that, you know, one of the biggest class dividers or wealth dividers is generational. But that doesn't mean that every single pensioner is living lavishly. Not every single pensioner was able to take advantage of the fact that property was much cheaper, you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago. And we also, I think specifically the winter fuel allowance, because every single winter we have the same problem where pensioners are, you know, struggling to keep warm in the cold. We have strain on the NHS as a result. The NHS struggles to cope. I think to specifically do this right before we enter the winter, you're right, it does seem bizarrely vindictive. It seems unnecessary. There's a plethora of different things that could have been the first port of call if we want to look at raising money. And it I don't understand. It's much like the cigarette ban, the smoking ban outside of pubs.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, sure, I understand the reasoning, but you're just going after one of the few things that people are like.
But they said they've got to get growth, and growth is going to lift us all off. So let's see. That's the big. Let's move on. Stormwell, by the way, will take calls on the subject later of the winter fuel and whether the government should just basically drop the policy and move on. 0207 862 2222. Give us a call.